Hi, in this lecture we'll discuss the ethical decision-making required in a corporate environment, along with a review of its leadership dimension. At the end of this lecture, you'll be able to understand the process of ethical decision-making in a corporate setup, use the ethical decision-making framework to make improved ethical business decisions, grasp the different styles of organisational leadership and the habits of strong leaders. In Lecture 4, we learned about emerging ethical issues in an organisation and some prominent methods to identify them, while Lecture 5 helped us in gaining insights on institutionalisation as a key tool to implement ethical culture and to mitigate risk of misconduct in an organisation. In this topic, we'll dive deeper into the process of ethical decision-making and look at the importance of leadership when building ethical business environments. In ethical decision-making, the first step is to recognise that an ethical issue requires an individual or work group to choose among several actions. These actions are then evaluated by various stakeholders inside or outside the firm as right or wrong. For example, business expansion through acquisition, which would ultimately end in employee layoff, might be considered as unethical by stakeholders. In business, people make decisions differently than at home, primarily due to organisational pressures and attitudes. For example, installation of a CCTV camera at home may ensure security, but at the workplace, it may also lead to employee privacy issues. There can be many aspects that influence the ethical decision-making. These factors can be categorised into 4 parts, namely, ethical issue intensity, individual factors, organisational factors such as corporate culture, and opportunity. We'll now discuss these factors in detail. Ethical issue intensity refers to the perceived relevance or importance as an ethical issue to the individual, work group or organisation. The intensity refers to one's personal character to accommodate values, beliefs, needs, perceptions, special characteristics of the situation, and the personal pressures prevailing at a particular place and time. Ethical issue also includes moral intensity, which relates to a person's perceptions of social pressure and the harm the decision will have on others. For example, the CEO of a chemical manufacturing company decides to set up their plant in an area outside the city centre to reduce the effect of harmful gases on community and society. People often base their decisions regarding ethical issues on their own values and principles of right and wrong. These are individual factors. These values and principles in individuals are instilled through socialisation and their education. Personal ethical issues in workplaces involves honesty, conflicts of interest, discrimination, and theft of organisational resources. For example, employees may use office equipment for their own personal use. Gender, nationality, age, education and locus of control are other individual factors of ethical decision-making. Locus of control relates to an individual's belief about how they are affected by internal versus external events or reinforcements. Individuals who believe in external control tend to consider events in their lives are due to uncontrollable forces, while those with belief in internal control consider them as masters of their destinies and have trust in their capacity to influence their environment. Research states that individuals who believe in external control are more ethical than those who believe in internal control. For instance, a marketing head of a pharmaceutical company who believes in internal control and considers himself as above judgment is more prone to take unethical decisions to achieve sales targets. Ethical culture is an important component of overall organisational culture. Corporate culture is a set of values, norms and artefacts, including ways of solving problems that employees of an organisation share. Corporate culture and ethical culture are closely associated with the decisions that significant others take within an organisation. Significant others are referred to as those individuals who have influence in a work group, including managers, co-workers and subordinates. They help workers on a daily basis with unfamiliar tasks and provide advice and information in both formal and informal ways. Obedience to authority helps us understand why many employees resolve business ethics issues by simply following the directives of a superior. For example, a subordinate who always follows his superior direction would blame him for any unethical result of his action. Opportunity relates to an individual's immediate job context, that is, where they work, with whom they work, and the nature of the work. It describes the conditions in an organisation that limits or permits the ethical or unethical behaviour, so the organisational culture will either provide or limit the capacity for unethical behaviour to take place. Policies, formal codes and rules enforced by management can assist at limiting opportunities where employees carry out unethical practice in an organisation. The 4 factors of ethical decision-making are interrelated. They influence the evaluations and intentions behind the decisions that produce ethical or unethical behaviour. Ethical dilemmas involve problem-solving situations in which decision rules are often vague or in conflict. As there is no magic formula, critical thinking and the ability to take responsibility for your own decisions is an imperative for making ethical decisions. An individual's intentions and the final decision regarding what action he or she will take are the last steps in the ethical decision-making process. When the individual's intentions and behaviour are inconsistent with their ethical judgment, the person may feel guilty. For example, a marketing manager may realise that the advertisement prepared for a product may not be truthful, but on considering he needs to keep his job, he still markets the product in this way. This may well lead to a feeling of guilt. Guilt or uneasiness is the first sign that an unethical decision has occurred. This is known as the value shift of an individual to fit the decision, which is driven by the concept of success for money, power, security for family, etc. The knowledge of factors and framework cannot provide an objective yardstick to determine whether decisions are ethical or unethical. However, it will assist you in developing insights into the decision-making process in organisations. It's also unlikely that an organisation's ethical problems can be solved by having a thorough knowledge of making ethical decisions. Business ethics decisions primarily involve value judgments and collective agreement about acceptable patterns of behaviour. Business knowledge and competence must exist, along with the personal values in ethical decision-making. For example, a banker provides a personal loan to an individual based on his income statement. However, the banker must have business knowledge about the risks and losses associated with the decision. If the banker knows the individual has a high probability of losing their job, then the banker may be unethical in providing the loan. It is observed that the more knowledge an individual gains about the decision-making process, the better he analyses critical ethical dilemmas and provides ethical leadership regardless of his role in an organisation. Leadership is the ability or authority to guide and direct others towards achievement of a goal. It has a significant impact on ethical decision-making as they have the power and ability to motivate others and implement the organisation's rules and policies. Therefore, leaders are the key to influencing an organisation's corporate culture and ethics. The role a manager plays in developing an ethics leadership program are organisational commitment from board of directors and top management. For example, board of directors agree to pledge 5% of their salaries for social causes. Organisational resources for ethics initiatives. For example, funds for undertaking corporate social responsibility activities. Determine ethical risks and develop contingency plans. For example, the facilities expansion plan for an organisation can be restrained by stakeholders if it is considered harmful to the environment. Develop ethics program to address risks and maintain compliance with ethical standards. For example, supporting the whistleblower rather than punishing them. Provide oversight for implementation and audits of ethical programs. For example, giving provision for external auditors and independent directors to check on ethical programs. communicate with stakeholders to establish shared commitment and values for ethical conduct. For example, communicate green initiative campaigns undertaken for environmental protection. Leadership styles influence many aspects of organisational behaviour, including employees' acceptance of and adherence to organisational norms and values. Styles that focus on building strong organisational values among employees leads to reduction in employee misconduct by enforcing values, rules and ethical standards. In other words, the leadership style of an organisation influences how its employees act. Ethical leaders need both knowledge and experience to make decisions. It's a fact that no leader can always be right or judged ethical by stakeholders in every case. This may be perceived as a weakness, but in reality it supports integrity and increases debate on ethics and openness. Considering the various aspects of leadership, Daniel Goleman has identified 6 leadership styles based on emotional intelligence. These 6 leadership styles are: coercive. A coercive leader demands instantaneous obedience and focuses on achievement, initiative and self-control. Although this style can be very effective during times of crisis or during a turnaround, it may at times create a negative climate for organisational performance. Authoritative. An authoritative leader inspires employees to follow a vision, facilitates change and creates a strongly positive performance climate. This style is considered to be one of the most effective styles of leadership. Affiliative. An affiliative leader values people, their emotions and their needs and relies on friendship and trust to promote flexibility, innovation and risk-taking in an organisation. Democratic. A democratic leader relies on participation and teamwork to achieve collaborative decisions. The style focuses on communication and creates a positive climate for achieving results. Pace setting. A pace-setting leader sets high standards which can create a negative climate. This style works best for achieving fast results from highly motivated individuals who value achievement and take initiative. Coaching. The coaching leader builds a positive climate by developing skills to foster long-term success, delegating responsibility, and skillfully issuing challenging assignments to its subordinates. Different leadership styles can be effective in developing an ethical culture, depending on the leader's assessment of risks and desire to build a positive climate for organisational performance. Successful leaders often change their methods or styles based on the characteristics of the situation. But most importantly, strong ethical leaders should have the right kind of moral integrity and must be concerned about stakeholders' interests. Leaders can also be classified as transactional or transformational based on their leadership style. Transactional leaders create employee satisfaction through bartering for desired behaviour or performance. They ensure implementation of required conduct and procedures. Their negotiations to achieve desired outcomes often result in a dynamic relationship with the subordinates. For example, a leader may force his subordinates to work on holidays to achieve their yearly target. In return, they are given good performance appraisals. Transformational leaders strive to raise employees' level of commitment and to foster their trust and motivation. Therefore, they have a stronger influence on co-workers by promoting common learning experiences which help in building a strong ethical culture. Transformational ethical leadership is best suited for organisations that have higher levels of ethical commitment among employees and stronger stakeholder support for an ethical culture. A leader is praised and seen as a role model by their subordinates or fellow employees due to their ethical conduct, which is based on their habit or convention. The 7 habits of strong ethical leaders are: strong personal character. Ethical leadership is highly unlikely without a strong personal character. Personal character can be developed coaching individuals to do the right things regarding corporate values and ethical codes, and providing them with the knowledge and skills to address complex ethical issues. Having a passion to do the right thing indicates a person recognises the importance of ethical behaviour and also has a willingness to face challenges and make tough decisions. Courageous leadership requires making and defending the right decision. Ethical leaders anticipate, plan, and act proactively to avoid potential ethical issues. Proactive leaders develop effective training programs that provide guidance to employees for making ethical choices under pressure. They believe in establishing the best practices in industry. Ethical leaders consider the interests of stakeholders, not just shareholders. They gather information about stakeholders' concerns and would avoid activities that would harm their interests and rights. These leaders strike a balance between stakeholder interests and organisation interests through trust. It is vital for a leader to become a role model for propagating an organisation's core values, as leaders primarily influence an individual's ethical behaviour. Leaders who act contrary to the firm's values send a signal to the stakeholders that the firm's values are immaterial. Transparency fosters openness, freedom to express ideas, and the ability to question conduct, and it encourages stakeholders to learn about and comment on what a firm is doing. Transparent leaders can be effective by actively getting involved in making key ethical decisions. Ethical leaders take a holistic view of their organisation and view ethics as an important strategic component for fostering good practice and avoiding bad practices. They give equal importance to ethics across all areas of an organisation. The key components of the ethical decision-making framework include ethical issue intensity, individual factors, organisational factors, and opportunity. These factors are interrelated and influence employee business ethics evaluations and intentions, which result in ethical or unethical behaviour. In this context, a strong ethical leader can coach an employee by providing training programs for making ethical choices under pressure. They can also enforce values, moral and ethical code of conduct on employees for making ethical decisions. Therefore, strong ethical leadership will help in resolving complex and challenging issues that companies face on a daily basis. Thanks for taking the time to view this lecture.